Welcome back to the Big Burger Podcast. Today we're gonna discuss some SEC win totals. How are you doing, Eddie?
What's up, guys? What's up, Richie? Everything good over here? Excited to talk about the SEC, the greatest conference of all time. I love the SEC. Everybody in the SEC is so good and they're always so good and they're better than everyone else. And that's just how the SEC is. They're just better than everyone. It means more. And, even Vanderbilt is better than anyone else on the any other conference because it's the SEC.
Without a doubt, 100%.
100%. Speaking of the SEC, before we get into the win totals themselves, I recently, about like a week ago, I think it was either earlier this week or last week, the new Johnny Manziel documentary, hour-long documentary from Netflix came out very recently. And I watched it last night and it was really entertaining. I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. It told, I mean, I I don't think it told too much of the behind the scenes that much, but it did recap a lot of his career at A&M and a lot of his career. I mean, it was a little bit of post A&M, like the NFL and how he fell out too much, like partying and drinking and drugs and not caring, um, and being like immature. But I mean, that was only covered a little bit, but it was really cool how they covered his A&M tenure. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. Obviously, I've seen stuff about it, like whatever publicity about it, but I actually haven't seen it. And like I didn't really like when Johnny Manziel was like hype or whatever, it was like 2012 or so, right? Around there. That was his Heisman season.
Yeah, 2012. That was his Heisman season. I think he played, and then he did play one more season after that.
So like I remember that. I just don't remember if like Texas A&M like was like really good that year. I don't know how they finished, but like obviously I do remember Johnny Manziel. So yeah, I'll probably give it a look. I don't know. I wasn't like
So
super like I wasn't
the
like a huge fan of him or
documentary
anything. I
actually
was just like, oh,
covers,
like cool.
yeah, as we've discussed. I mean, as for myself, I wasn't even that big of a college football fan at the time. I was just emerging as one. But the I after some research and also what the documentary says, dude, it is I mean, I'm not gonna spoil too much, but basically the season ended for them. They went 11-2.
Oh damn, okay.
Um, they only lost to LSU and to Florida, both I think 10 or 11 win teams that season.
Wow.
Like
Wow, that's
after the
crazy.
bowl game and after everything. But they only lost two games. They beat everybody else, and then they beat Oklahoma in the bowl game. And I think it was the Cotton Bowl. And it's crazy because that was their first season in the SEC, leaving the Big 12. So
What?
they they had the Heisman. He was doing awesome. They finished at 11-2, close losses to LSU and to UF.
That means they beat
And
Alabama.
and they did beat Alabama. And I mean, if I'm sure if you like watch replays of that game, there's a few super special highlights like him scrambling and then throwing the pass and catching these or throwing these touchdown passes.
Mm.
But they did beat Alabama and Alabama won that year, which is the crazy
Wow.
part. Like
That's crazy.
Alabama won it all that year. So I think, yeah, 2012, yeah. Yeah. So they didn't and they beat them. So the the crazy thing is that in the documentary, the UF game was their week one game, like their first game. So and they lost by like 3 or 4 points. And they didn't even tell Manziel to like go do you. They were trying to like devise like a scheme or like their own game plan for UF. And the next game they played against SMU, I'm pretty sure that's in the documentary. They're like, oh Manziel, go do your thing. And the guy just lights it up completely. If they had told him to just do his own thing from the first game, A&M could have been national champions. Like they were really, really, really good.
What?
I mean,
Yeah, no.
11-2, Cotton Bowl victory, and close losses to LSU and to UF. And that's a real SEC schedule. Like that was,
Yeah. Yeah.
UF 10-win season, LSU 10-win season, Bama. I mean, so I
Right.
mean they were really, really good. But I suggest you watch the documentary. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check it out for sure. All right, cool, cool. So with that, let's get into the SEC. It's I mean, just one more thing. It's kind of crazy that they did that in their literal first year of the SEC. So that must have
First
like put
year,
them like in the spotlight, being like, oh, we're gonna have a super bright future in the SEC, or like we'll eventually run the SEC, and then they just
it
haven't. So
it did it changed everything. I mean, I'm not gonna go too much more into it, but it you know how I'm not gonna say A&M has been a power player in the SEC the last 10 years, but they're not
they're
great.
in they're
I
in
mean,
the upper
obviously they're
tier
not great, but they're in the upper
ish.
tier. They're at least mid tier, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
And when with 90 to 95% of how these schools and programs go from one conference to another and they suck so much ass,
true.
considering that A&M did pretty good for itself the last 10 years. A lot of them
Right.
like Nebraska, a lot of them, they do terrible. And A&M, just by the virtue of not doing terrible, is doing really, really good.
Yeah,
So
definitely, definitely.
so it did change everything. If they didn't have them, they would probably be, like Missouri or more or less.
Right. Yeah, no, no, I feel that. So yeah, no, Texas A&M. I mean, we'll talk about them later, but like they're just a super strange team to to see how they
Very
do
strange.
like season by season. So yeah, let's
The
get into
12th
these.
man.
The 12th man, dude, 100,000 seat stadium. That's crazy. That's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
So let's get into the win totals, and of course, the highest team, the highest rated team, the team to favored to win it all again, defending the two-time defending national champions is the Georgia Bulldogs, and they're at 11 and a half. So they're either you're betting if they're going perfect or not, which is absurd for a regular season win total. What do you think?
That is crazy. As you just said, either undefeated or not. Usually, I think a team after they win the national championship is either 10 and a half or 11, I guess. This
Yeah,
is just basically saying undefeated or not, as you just said, but there's reason for it. Number one, they're amazing. They've recruited amazing. They have one of the best coaches, and they're awesome. But the bigger reason is that their schedule sucks. The schedule sucks. It's terrible. It's like the strength is terrible, and then that's basically it. So their hardest game by far is at Vanderbilt, of course. No, I'm kidding. Their, their hardest game by far is at Tennessee. Everything else is a joke. Is a joke. So I'm gonna take the over 12 and 0. Can I see them losing a game? Even to Missouri or like they were almost beat by Missouri last year or South Carolina, maybe South Carolina. So I don't know. Could they lose a game and slip up? Of course. But if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna bet Georgia 12 and 0.
nice, nice. And you are getting some value because it's plus 115 for the over and it's minus 135 for the under. I right off the bat, this is kind of rare. We kind of agreed on a lot of win totals in the Big Ten. I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. I'm gonna go under just because 12 and 0 in a D1 power conference schedule is still really, really hard to do. I know they just
Really
did it.
hard.
I know they just did it twice in a row, right? Yeah.
No, no. Well, yes, in the regular season,
In the
yes,
regular
12 and
season,
0.
yeah.
Yes,
In the regular
yes.
they I don't see them going 12 and 0 again. The mental like fortitude you need to have to like actually care to do it for a third straight year is
Hmm.
extremely tough. I don't remember like any team ever actually doing that. So
No,
I don't think they're gonna make history. They could. They could win three straight and make history, but I'm going to go under. And it's not that like, oh, I like them losing this game or that game or whatever. I just think they're going to lose a game out of these 12. It could be at Tennessee, it could be at Auburn, it could be I don't know. It's basically the only two options I can see. Or maybe they have a
I
weird game against Ole Miss or something. But
the,
I'm gonna pick them going under.
the biggest thing I think that favors your argument is yeah, they did it 2 years in a row, but although he's not a, a Heisman winning quarterback, he is a Heisman finalist quarterback, and Stetson Bennett. and he was there for both of them. I know he wasn't
Yep.
the main starter the first year, 2021, but this is a brand new quarterback coming in,
Mhm.
basically. So you never know. I mean, I think they're gonna be good. It probably is gonna be good, but I don't know. And I mean, no one really, 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 truly knows yet. But yeah, I have them going to the field.
Nice. So yeah, that one was not a lot to talk about. Everybody knows they're amazing. Their recruiting's amazing. So yeah, they're favored to win a national championship. For a reason. So the next team on the list is the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're at 10.5, but their odds are a little funny. The over is at plus 150 and the under is at minus 175. So heavily juiced to the under.
Hmm.
Under 10.5 for Alabama?
I'm gonna do it.
You're gonna do it?
I'm gonna go the under. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I It is really, really strange to not believe that Bama will win like 11 or 12 games. It is strange. But if you look, first of all, ever since the COVID season, basically, like the last two seasons, Bama isn't the Bama that we grew up on. They're not, beat you by 40, even against a Power Five opponent every week, week in and week out. They're having these close games. They almost lost the Texas one last season. They
Mhm.
almost lost the A&M one last season. They did lose to LSU and to Tennessee. They didn't even make the SEC championship game, whatever. So you had that with a Heisman quarterback, one of the, Bryce Young, one of the best probably the best quarterback to ever play at Alabama.
Yeah.
And so to do that, and you lose a bunch of pieces to the NFL, of course, to do, 11 wins or whatever, the over with a brand new quarterback and the drop, and these guys, they don't, by the reports, they're not that good. Even if they were good, the drop off between Bryce Young and someone else, especially if they're not that good, is huge. It's huge. It's like enormous. And on top of that, the schedule is tough, unlike Georgia's. Texas, at Texas A&M, they have Tennessee and LSU. The good thing is that they're both at home, but they have at Auburn, and I don't think Auburn's that good. But that's a game that you never truly know how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So that's a tougher schedule. I'm gonna go the under.
Nice, nice. I am actually going to agree with you, and I think it's kind of an easy pick.
Hmm.
And my reasoning is, a lot of what you just said, the schedule is tough. But the most alarming thing that I saw when kind of looking a little bit at Alabama is that the returning production is at 41%. It's abysmal.
Yeah.
I actually just looked it up right now, like 10 seconds ago, because that sounded crazy. And it's true. It's still at 41%. So they they have a lot of inexperience. That's what that
A
tells
lot of
me.
inexperience.
Their schedule's hard. They have a merry-go-round at quarterback right now. They don't even have a solid starter. So
Hmm.
with everything you just said, I think the under is definitely the move, which is crazy to say, but at the end of the day, 11-1 is still really really hard to do, and I just don't think they have like the personnel to do that, and
Yeah, I
with
don't
this
think so
schedule,
either. If they had, I mean, dude, it makes such a difference just having Bryce Young.
yeah,
But even with the 41% and all that, if they had Bryce Young, I would think a little differently. But no Bryce Young. Like, I mean, that guy was awesome to watch. That guy was awesome.
yeah, definitely. All right. So the next highest team, there's actually two teams, and their win totals are at 9.5. It is Tennessee and LSU. Which one do you want to hit first?
Let's go LSU.
Okay, cool, cool.
Nine
LSU,
and a
a team
half,
that's getting a ton of hype.
ton of hype. There, I think with the preseason poll, either coaches or AP or any individual poll,
Hmm.
it is so, it's Georgia one, of course. If you don't have Georgia, when you're crack.
Right.
Then Michigan at two. That's also pretty standard. And then after that, it's a little weird. Like whether you have Ohio State or Alabama, whatever. But then the 5 to 10 is insane. Like you could argue anybody in any of those positions. You could argue Florida State as the five. You could argue LSU. You could argue Texas. You could argue Penn State. It's
Yeah.
insane. So there's so much like that is so volatile. So I see people like as you said giving hype to LSU, and I don't love it, but I get where it's coming from because they could put it Penn State for I don't know, but they have reason to believe that right now or Washington or something. I don't know,
Hmm.
but yeah.
So what do you
So
like? Do you like I don't know, do you like over
for
on?
9.5 LSU, I like based on like my first reaction looking at this, I like the over. I think they do play Bama at Bama. They do have a couple other, games that are tougher. They don't have Tennessee this year, which is good for them. They draw Missouri and Florida, of course, from the East. So I think over, they should beat both those East teams. Their toughest games are at Alabama, that's number one, and then Florida State. And I don't think they're gonna go perfect. Like let's say they split those. I don't know if they're gonna go perfect the rest of the way, but it's a tougher schedule, and they could easily win the Florida State game, and they could easily lose it. I mean, that game's gonna be the toss up of the toss ups. So you never, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go over just because I think they're maybe a little bit better than Florida State, maybe, but we'll see how the game actually plays out. But it's tough. I think I'm gonna go over.
Okay, cool. So give me one second. So yeah, the thing with these SEC schools, especially the ones in the West Division, their schedules are so hard. The schedule is
It's
so
so
hard.
hard, and it
On
matters
top of
so
playing
much who you
FSU.
draw. It matters who also you draw from the East.
Yeah, yeah.
So like a lot.
Yeah, so they play UF every year, so they got them, and as you said, they got Missouri, or yeah, Missouri. So they don't get Georgia, which is definitely, a relief if you're LSU. Their
Mhm.
talent is all obviously amazing. Their returning production is solid.
Quarterback is good.
The quarterback is good.
Head
Brian
coach,
Kelly is
head coach is
definitely a good
good.
coach. With all that being said, I'm gonna go with the second disagreement of the night. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go
Wow.
slightly under because I see the schedule. There are too many toss-ups. Too many toss-ups for me to confidently say they're gonna go 10-2. There's
What would you say after Florida State and Alabama, the next toss up one is what at Ole Miss?
I'll list them for you. FSU,
Dale.
basically a toss-up.
Mhm.
At Ole Miss, I think is still a toss-up. That's just a tough place to play. It's a road game, SEC.
Yeah.
At Alabama, toss-up-ish. Toss-up-ish. Maybe Alabama
I
has
mean,
like
Bama's favored. I mean, I
Bama's
would I
favored.
would
Bama's
favor
favored.
Bama, but it is a toss up.
Yeah. And then I can even say Texas A&M at the end of the
Yeah,
year because Texas A&M
you're
can
right.
be really, really good still. We just don't know.
And they beat them last year.
Yes. So, if they lose to FSU, then I love this under. I love the under.
Yeah.
If they beat FSU, I'm sweating a little bit, but I'm not like totally,
Sold on the over either. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm gonna
No,
stick with the under. And there's a little bit of value. It's at plus 105, so I'm okay with the under.
although I do like my over prediction because I do think they're really, really, really good. This is the one that is probably been. I'm sorry, it's probably been the one that's been the most tough for me to say which side
Yeah.
of probably any of the ones that we've done so far. Like today or ever. Like this could go either way. I mean, this is straight up a toss up I mean, all around. Like just like you mentioned,
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
And I think the number is perfect. I don't see them going 8-4, and I don't see them going 11-1. So it's going to be 9 or 10. It's right
So
there.
so since we agreed on the Bama one and we disagreed here,
Yeah.
just really quick, who do you have winning the West? Like on a whim, just first answer that comes to mind.
Alabama.
I had LSU, but yeah, I mean,
I have
understandable.
Alabama. I think they're getting disrespected. I did pick them under, but I think they're getting a little bit disrespected. I think
But
they'll take it a
but
little personal.
but you also picked it under just because the
I picked
value and
under on both. I picked under on both Alabama and LSU. So
mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so the
But I
next one
wouldn't
you
be surprised,
mentioned,
obviously, if LSU wins the West.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
The next one
the
is
next one's
Tennessee, right?
Tennessee. Yeah.
Tennessee, a team that I got to see last year at the Orange Bowl, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
So Tennessee, 9.5, correct?
9.5. The over is at plus 155, and the under is super heavily favored at minus 180.
You know, I don't. So they do have quite a difficult schedule. You said 9.5, the unders heavily favored.
Yeah.
I could see that because they do play at Alabama and then Georgia at home. Imagine playing Alabama and Georgia the same season, of course,
Right.
like Auburn every year. But even Tennessee every year too. I mean,
Hmm.
but I mean, of course it's super tough. But they play both of those. Let's assume losses.
Yeah.
It's tough because A&M could be really good, as we just mentioned. They
Hmm.
play A&M even though it's at home. And then at Florida, although I don't think Florida's that good, and we'll get into that later, this is like an SEC East, division rival game,
Oh yeah.
big game.
Definitely a rivalry game.
If there's one that UF could catch one on, it's probably this one. I mean, I don't know. It's early in the season. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
So the rest of them are either toss-ups or I favor Tennessee heavily. So I think I'm gonna go the under.
Hmm.
I think I am gonna go the under. I'm gonna go the under.
All right. I'm gonna go a little crazy.
Ooh,
I'm gonna take the over, and I feel like this is kind of a weird episode that we're now disagreeing on everything.
yeah.
But I'm gonna go over because I do like the value at plus 155. Let's say, boom, they lose to Alabama, they lose to Georgia. Let's just give them auto losses there. I think Virginia's terrible. I think Florida is not going to be good, and I think
Hmm.
they're just going to win. Like they're just going to win that game. Maybe close, but I think they'll win.
Sure.
Texas A&M, they could be good, but it's in Tennessee. I like them winning that. Every other team is inferior. I think they are better.
I get what you're saying. What you're saying here is basically you're gonna have to use some imagination to see a loss.
Yes,
Whereas
they're
in
going to
the
have to like lose to a worse team, in my opinion.
yeah. And the away and home schedule is very favorable.
Yes, definitely.
Like at Florida, fine, sure, but they're better than Florida.
But
And then
better to catch Florida that they're down now at
yeah,
Gainesville. So like
they play
that's
A&M in Knoxville. They play South Carolina in Knoxville. They play Virginia, although bad, whatever, neutral site. So, you
basically a
know,
home game in Nashville.
basically a home game, Nashville, yeah.
So yeah,
But
I'm not in love with the over, but I do like the value, and I can totally see 10-2.
yeah, I mean, this is another tough one.
So the next team's an
Some
interesting one. The Texas A&M Aggies are at 8 after a 5-7
mm,
season, and I know for a fact they cannot wait for this offseason to be over for them.
they cannot, as Uncle Lou noted a couple
Yeah,
days ago in his
absolutely.
video.
Shout out.
This is probably, yeah, shout out Uncle Lou. He was funny as fuck. But this is, as you were saying, this is definitely the team that wants to go into the next season right, like yesterday, like
Right.
right now.
So the odds, they're almost evenly split, minus 115 and minus 105. And that eight
Mhm.
number is just, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird
It's
number.
just eight, flash eight, like
Just
flat
eight,
eight.
flat eight.
As we've mentioned, even today and episodes prior, there's always a game very, 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 very early on. And if they hit, you gotta like the over. And if they don't, you gotta like the under. Do you know what that game is for this team?
I will be in attendance for that game.
Wow.
And it'll be at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, against the Miami Hurricanes. So
Yes. If they do win, if they do win that game, the over could hit, and even not just could the over hit. If they win that game convincingly, I think they could really be the real deal and
yeah,
compete in the SEC West. I mean, I don't think they're gonna win the Natty or anything like that, but they could maybe represent the West. So
yes,
if they win convincingly, if they win like two, three touchdowns, something like that, yeah. And then because the other games they have New Mexico, ULM in the beginning, it's just there's nothing to really get excited for there. I mean, they're probably gonna win those games anyway. So it's up to that Miami game to really make a statement. If they win that Miami game, I like the over. But even like forget about that game and that game's outcome. I I like the over for I mean flat eight is tough. I wish it was 7.5. That way I could just hit the over hard, but I'm still gonna go with the over. I mean 9, they on talent on paper, they're better than almost every single team here.
yes.
It's just so if Petrino could do his job, if Jimbo Fisher could do his job, more so, more like it, if Jimbo Fisher could do his job, then this could be a dangerous team. It could be a dangerous team. So I like the over. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Question for me is, do I trust Texas A&M to just play not even super well, just average, relative to their talent?
Mhm.
If they play average relative to their talent, they easily win 9 games. Easily.
Easily, easily.
Do I trust them to do that? This year, I'm gonna say yes. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I like over. I mean, this team is like a top 10 team talent wise. They can lose to LSU, Alabama, and Tennessee and still go over.
and still
The
go
rest of their
over.
schedule is not too crazy. And I do think they'll beat Miami at home. It may be close, it may be a little feisty, but I think they're
I
just
think it will be.
I think they're
I
just more
think it.
talented than UM right now.
I
And
think it will be close, and I think, but like you said, I think it will be. I think they should be favored. A&M.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, they probably are favored, but I think they should be favored.
And like you said, if they do lose in Miami, then their season might go a little off the rails. It just
Mhm.
might. So that game is like, win or bust for them, I think, in my opinion.
I could see that for sure. I mean, dude, they went 5-7 last season,
Yeah.
and I'm like they didn't barely beat Miami last year, but they didn't do a great job at it either.
Yeah, it looked horrible. Like
It
both
looked
teams wanted to
horrible.
lose. Like
We saw the game. It was like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life,
it
but
was awful.
it was awful. But you know, if Miami had beaten them that game, 4-8 A&M, that is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, crazy. But man, if okay, really quick, before we do the next team, how many wins would it take, or I guess losses this regular season for Jimbo Fisher to get fired? Like with the buyout and everything.
For him to get fired with how
Yes.
much money they're paying him, it
Yes.
has to be it
Buyout
has to
and
be like
everything.
6.
6. So if he wins 6 games, he's gonna get fired, in your opinion.
If they go 6-6, I think they strongly, strongly consider firing him.
Yeah. I think they definitely consider it 6-6. I don't think they'll fire him though, but I think they'll consider it. If they go 5-7, the exact same thing,
He's gone.
he's gone. He's
He's
gone.
gone.
He's gone.
Yeah. He's done. He's done.
Goodbye, Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the next team on the list is the Ole Miss Rebels at 7.5. The over is at -115 and the under is at -105.
Sorry, you said 8.5?
7.5.
7.5. This is an interesting one. Everyone's like not everyone, but all these fan pages that we follow, they're all hyping up Ole Miss Tulane. Um, like just because of how good Tulane did last season, and the coach is really good, and the
And it's
turnaround that
at
they had,
Tulane.
and it's at Tulane. I think Ole Miss is gonna win that game. I don't really like. I don't know. I think they're just better.
Yeah.
So of course they're just better, but I don't think any crazy upset. People are like, oh, watch out, week two, week two. Ooh. Like, no, Ole Miss is gonna win. So whatever, that's just how I feel. I might go to an Ole Miss game in Oxford this year because my
Oh,
sister's boyfriend will be attending school there, you know. So I might visit. But I mean, looking at the schedule, 7.5. They started off hot last season, but they played a bunch of nobodies in the beginning, and then they had very very few impressive wins, and they ended up losing a bunch of games towards the end, and they even lost their bowl game to Texas Tech. So I'm not confident just because I don't know, like they have a bunch of good quarterbacks, but I don't like I like it when a quarterback was there last season and then he's coming back and he's good and the team's coming together and
mm.
for a team like this, like which isn't particularly strong, they're just a you know, decent SEC team. I don't know. I'm not confident in them, like Lane Kiffin and it's good offense, but I don't know. I'm gonna go the under. I don't really know too much about Ole Miss this year, but I'm not confident in them. I'm gonna go the under.
So this one's tough for me. To be honest, I haven't even decided yet. I think it's a
What
really, really good number.
what does your algorithm and everything say about the returning production
Yeah,
and
sure.
anything else?
So my algorithm says 8. It says slightly over,
Hmm.
and their recruiting is good. It's actually really good if you're just an average team, but they're in the SEC West, so it's actually kind of bad.
Hmm.
They're no, it's not bad. It's
This
good.
is average. This
It's
is
fine. It's just average, yeah. Their returning production is 71%. Solid, right?
wow, pretty high. Yeah,
So, I understand the 8. I understand why I got given 8, but college football is all about upsets, all
all
about
about
crazy,
upsets.
goofy stuff. I can see 3 auto losses. Well, 3 auto losses, but like 2 actual auto losses, and then like a couple of toss ups that I give them a third loss. So at
Okay,
Georgia,
so
at
wait,
Alabama,
and then LSU.
LSU. So the
I
toss,
would I would have it
I wouldn't have
auto
an auto loss,
loss,
but definitely leaning
but
ones.
leaning. Yes,
So
yes, I
that's
agree.
that's that's basically 3, and then you have at Auburn, at Mississippi State. I think they're gonna at least split those. They're both on the road.
Hmm.
There's your 4 losses. Can I see a fifth loss? Tulane is looming dangerously.
Tulane is. I like that reference.
They're
Tulane is looming dangerously, and just to point out, and I know, I don't think the audience knows my affiliations, but I think even Georgia Tech could maybe pull off a crazy upset. I have more faith in. Actually, I don't know who
happens
I
all
have
the
more.
time.
It happens all the time, and on top of that, Georgia Tech when they played Ole Miss, yeah, they got destroyed, but it was with Jeff Collins, and that guy's a burger. So, Brent Key is just by himself made Georgia Tech better. So I don't know. Anything can happen, and I see what you're saying.
Yeah, not to mention they also play Texas A&M, who could be really good, and
Hmm.
Arkansas at home, which is probably another toss-up.
Yes.
So I like the under also. So we agree with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, Ole Miss. I mean,
7.5, we're both going under. Yeah, we're mean to Ole Miss this year.
it is tough. It's
Yeah,
tough.
it's tough.
It's tough. I mean, this is when they do unironically, they say the SEC schedules. I mean, this is what they mean right here.
Yeah.
This is what they mean. Not
So
like Georgia's. This is what they mean.
so there's 2 teams that are up next. Their win totals are at 7 exactly. They are Arkansas and Kentucky. So they're in 2 different divisions, but which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's go back to the East. Um, Wait, pause right here. Like pause.
Sure.
Did we? So I think we should do Kentucky just because we've spoken a lot about the West, and let's go back East and talk about them.
Let's do it. So Kentucky at 7. Let's check
Kentucky
their return
at
production.
7.
63% returning production is middle of the pack, pretty
Mm.
standard. My algorithm spits out a really low number. It spits out 5. I don't know if I love that.
Mhm.
It's definitely due to their
Look,
recruiting, but they what did they go last year? Do you have that on you?
I think they went 7-6.
Yeah, see, so like they weren't they were fine last year.
They were fine. Well, when I'm looking at this schedule, it's very Pac-12 like. The front half is easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron all at home. Then at Vandy, and then UF at home. The trouble starts here at Georgia, and then home for Missouri, which is like whatever. Then Tennessee, at Mississippi State, then Alabama, and then at South Carolina, and then at Louisville. So I think they could win their first 5 games. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, at Vandy, and then Florida. I'm not saying those are auto wins, especially the Florida one, but those are very, very winnable. I can see them being 5-0.
Hmm.
And then Missouri to me is a toss up. Eh, South Carolina is probably a toss up as well. And then Louisville, of course, toss up rivalry game. So I you said 7, it's the over under 7.
Yep. Evenly split, -110 both ways.
It's tough. They did get the quarterback, which I do like that. I think from NC State. I
Hmm.
think his name is Devin Leary.
Mm,
I'm
they
gonna go the
yeah.
I, I'm gonna go the over just because I like that quarterback a lot. Um, Kentucky the last couple years has been pretty good, like for Kentucky standards, and I'll go the over. If it's even like that, I'll go the over.
Okay, fair, fair. So I see 2 automatic losses, Alabama and Georgia. Not even going to talk about that anymore.
Yeah,
Tennessee, likely loss. And then after that,
yeah.
I think they have too many toss-ups for me to feel comfortable going over 7.
Hmm.
At Vanderbilt toss-up, Missouri, as you just said, Missouri, Mississippi State, at South Carolina, at Louisville. I think there's too many losses on this schedule. I'm going to go under.
What
And I
is
do like
you?
the NC State transfer, and they recruit fine for an SEC school. They've actually been recruiting pretty well recently. But
Yeah. What is the the returning production? You said 63.
yeah,
Is that what you said?
63, which is fine. It's
Which is
just average.
fine. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be easy for them, but I think I personally think they could go. I mean, I could see either way, of course, but over is my bet.
Okay. So the
So
other team at 7 is Arkansas.
Arkansas, Arkansas, hello Arkansas. Okay,
Arkansas. The only thing I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about Arkansas, but I did
I
see
don't
the
know.
LSU game, and that LSU game was so bad. It was just so not fun to watch. Uh,
Well,
Harold Perkins feasted. I remember that. That was kind of cool.
Richie,
What?
they did go toe to toe versus Kansas.
Ooh,
So, you
ooh.
know, extremely difficult matchup to go toe to toe versus Kansas.
Arkansas catches FIU? What?
Wow.
Dude,
On
FIU is scheduling hard
No,
teams.
FIU loves to schedule these huge. FIU's played Bama, I think like twice.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, like Nick Saban Bama.
Bro, they just don't care.
They don't care. They just
They're like the Georgia Tech of the CUSA.
yeah. Um, for Arkansas, I don't know too much about it either. I I knew more last season. They had no, I actually do something. I do know something about
AJ
Arkansas.
Jefferson.
KJ Jefferson. I was about to
Yeah,
say that he's one of the better quarterbacks right now for the
yeah, he's
SEC.
solid.
Just because the SEC right now, the quarterback situation, um, there's a couple good ones, but it's not like, Bryce Young or anyone like that or Stetson Bennett, like how it was like
Mhm.
a year ago or in years prior. But this year, I don't like the names. They're not whatever. But KJ Jefferson, towards the top of the list. Um, 7.5, seven.
Seven, seven.
They draw Florida at Florida
Tough.
and Missouri home. The I mean, they play FIU in the non-con.
Hmm.
It's tough because at Florida, huge toss-up, and Missouri's even a toss-up. I'm gonna go the under. Like, I think Kentucky's better than Arkansas, and they play in the East instead of the West, and it's just the two they draw from the East are toss-ups, and then all the West are, very difficult. So even though the non-con is really easy, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. This one's tough for me also, but like I'm gonna have to say under.
Yeah.
Their schedule is just kind of tricky. It's kind of hard.
And I think Sam Pittman, the coach, hit his and Arkansas's ceiling. I mean, maybe their ceiling could be a little higher, but I think he hit the ceiling like 2 years ago in 2021. So
Yeah, and their returning production isn't favorable. It's only at 55%. So doesn't I don't think that helps them out, helps their case too much.
yeah, I
So
mean,
moving on, the
moving
next team is flip-flopping back to the East, even though this team geographically makes no sense to be in the East.
Missouri.
The Missouri Tigers,
Yeah,
6.5.
you kind of forget how westward Missouri the state is, and you just think, oh, they're in the East, so they must be East. And then you look at a map and you're like, what? What the hell? They're like the most like I mean, besides A&M and probably Louisiana, they're like the most Western team, like Western state. It's like, I mean, I guess if you divide it like diagonally like that, yeah, I mean, one of them is in the east and the other one is
Makes
west,
no
left and
sense.
right, but it doesn't make sense. So whatever. They're getting away with the divisions anyway.
Yeah, it's about time for that.
Wow, Missouri next. Okay. Interesting. Over under what is it?
6.5. Your schedule isn't too crazy. I think I don't like that they get Kansas State. I think they lose to Kansas State.
Yeah, we've spoken about this game.
Yeah,
It is a toss up. I still think that. But you know, Kansas State is probably favored and favorable in that matchup. Looking at the schedule, they draw Arkansas and LSU from the West.
hmm,
Their non-con, as you said, it's pretty standard. One tough team, Kansas State, and the rest are relatively easy,
yeah,
and they're all at home, and they're all in the beginning. The
weird.
This is a tougher schedule. This is one of the tougher schedules. I think what game is like the deciding factor for me? You said seven, right? Or
No,
six,
six and a
six.
half.
I don't know. I
Let's see. I
If
think
they win the
I'm
first four, if they win three out of the four non-con, no, I go. What were you gonna say? Because you were gonna say it first, and I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
no, I'm just trying to find 7 wins,
Yeah, and it's
and I'm
tough. I'm
stuck
trying to
on
find
like
six.
six, kind of.
I'm 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 barely stuck at six. You know, a game I think is gonna kind of come down to, but not really, is Arkansas. Like if they could win that game,
That game may decide it. That game
may
may
decide
decide
it.
if they
Yeah,
go over under.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, because let's say they win three of the non-con, and then two more games. Let's say like two of the of the coin flips.
sure.
Maybe they win Vandy and maybe
UF.
South Carolina or UF, either or. Boom, you would either have to win the Arkansas one or one of the two that we just mentioned without the Arkansas one.
Right.
So I I'm gonna lean under, but I could see the over, but they're gonna have to play tough. This is our harder schedule
Yeah, I'm gonna.
than at first glance when I thought.
I'm not super comfortable with it. I think it is gonna come down to the Arkansas game. And if I had to pick, I think Arkansas is more talented, and it's in Arkansas, so I'm gonna go under. Sorry, Missouri.
Sorry, Mizzou,
Mizzou,
the Tigers. It's crazy. Clemson Tigers, Missouri Tigers, Auburn Tigers. Like it's like a bunch of freaking Tigers.
LSU Tigers.
LSU Tigers.
What else? I know there's like one.
Vandy Burgers. UF Burgers. A little bit of Kansas Burgers, and I mean, it's just a bunch of burgers, a bunch of burger teams.
There's a lot of burgers on this schedule.
A lot of burgers. Who's next? Is
Next
it
team is also at 6.5, and we're gonna flip flop back to the West. It's a nice little,
is this the last
back and
West
forth.
team?
This may be the last
Is
one.
it Mississippi State?
No, it's not the last West team.
Are we
It's
talking about Mississippi State though?
so there's two more at 6.5,
Oh,
and they're both in the
Auburn.
West.
This is Auburn.
Yeah, it's Auburn and
Okay.
Mississippi State. So whatever you
Yeah.
want to go, whatever you want to hit first.
Let's go Auburn. Let's go
The other Tigers.
the other Tigers. Freeze. You get it? You freeze.
Yes. Auburn,
Put
man.
your
Out of
hands up.
Auburn can go. I mean, I understand why they're over unders at 6.5. Pretty crappy.
Now that I'm looking at it with an SEC lens, I'm not gonna change my opinion. Cal beats Auburn. But
Let's go.
I'm
Let's
not
go.
I'm not gonna change my opinion now that my back's against the
Pack
wall.
four is holding strong.
The Pac 4. Hold the line. But they play UMass. They could put, the coaching staff to play the game, and
And
they'll
they'll
probably
and
win
they'll
that
win.
game.
UMass is
So UMass, they win. Funny enough, UMass like was giving A&M trouble for like a quarter and a half last year. If you look at the game, but
what?
like, yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm pretty sure like, did it ended up being like 17-10. A&M
That's so
won,
good. That's
but
so good.
Auburn should beat UMass. Okay, cool. At Cal, now it is a toss up, but in the other video, the other podcast, I leaned Cal
Hmm.
just because I wanted to get spicy. But this is it could go either way.
Yeah.
Brand new for either like super early, brand new coaching staff. The talent there has been iffy last couple of years.
Their first like real kind of like test, and it helps that it's on the road, to like
That's
to,
true.
to like gauge where they're at.
They get Georgia from the East, of course, and they get Bandy from the East. So, looking at it, what would you say are auto wins here?
The UMass, Samford, and New Mexico State for sure. That's three. I can't give them any more auto wins,
Hmm.
but I can give them like two or
I lean,
three out of
yeah,
like
I
a
lean,
group of teams.
yeah. So lean Vandy, like lean
Lean
win Vandy,
Vandy, lean Mississippi State, lean
and
Cal.
lean Cal.
So that's six right there. And then they can if they win. I'm gonna take the over because out of all the teams we just named, that's already 6 wins, and they have to win one more out of like the remaining 6 teams, right? So
Hmm.
I kind of like the over.
Hugh Freeze, well, where did he work before?
He was at
Like, didn't
Liberty.
he work Ole Miss? He worked Ole Miss, right? Head coach of Ole Miss like a long time ago.
Oh, a long time. Oh, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you.
Like, I think so, and I think he beat Bama like once or twice back
Really?
then. But I think, dude, if we could get that Hugh Freeze, I'm gonna say this too.
He was the head coach from 2012 to 2016 at Ole Miss.
I'm gonna say this too. You know what's something that we forgot here?
What?
Even Bama is a toss up.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
like the
Exactly.
talent disparity for any other team, it wouldn't be. But just because it is Auburn
Yeah,
at Jordan Hare, it's a toss up. So
I agree.
for that, imagine if Auburn loses to Cal but beats Bama, the
That could happen
that could
because
happen.
you know throughout the season they may figure themselves out. Yeah,
The Pac four is gonna be so goaded if they do that. Go Pac four.
exactly.
Um, I'm gonna go the over. I like
Nice.
Auburn. I like Auburn. Like if they're one of the SEC teams that I wish we played like every year. I like Auburn. So maybe a little biased there.
All right. So let's go to the last team from the West
Well,
Division.
you said over, right?
Yeah, yeah, I said over.
Okay, okay.
The last team from the West Division, the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
The current reigning Egg Bowl champions.
Absolutely. They are at 6.5. Also, the over is at plus 145, and the under is at minus 165.
You know, before anything, really, really quick, rest in peace, Mike Leach,
Yeah,
a real one of the goats of the sport. You know, when you ask people what makes college football, that guy was part of it. So rest in peace to that guy.
absolutely. Absolutely. Is definitely, you know, one of like the defining, figures of college football for a
Mhm.
while. For a while. I mean, he put Wazoo on the map. Like he
He
straight up
put
put
Wazoo on the map. Dude, you think the whole Pac-12 would leave if Mike Leach was still there? He he'd put them all back in
he
their
would rally
place.
them together. He would rally
He'd
them
rally them together. There would be no Pac-4.
definitely.
But Mississippi State, interesting schedule.
Very interesting. I I am gonna do something a little crazy.
You
Um,
said 6.5, sorry.
yeah, I said
Okay.
6.5, and there's plus value on the over, and I'm gonna kind of hit the over hard,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you why. Their returning production is at 79%. Pretty
Wow.
staggering. The recruiting is solid. It's average for the SEC, but it's solid.
Hmm.
So with that average recruiting and the very strong returning production, along with, you know, for some reason they had strong, position rating numbers from last year.
I mean, they went 9-4 last year. They weren't bad at all.
Yeah, they weren't bad at all. So 6.5 seems a little low to me. And I understand why, because they're in such a tough division.
And you lose your head coach
Yeah, but
and just, changes.
yeah, yeah. I, you know, I think that could definitely like, bring a team together and make them extremely focused and perform well. And I do like them winning. I do like them just going over and not so much based on the schedule. They have an easy non-con. They can go 4-0. And then after that, all they have to do is win 3 games in the SEC. That,
Mhm.
I think that's totally, totally doable and likely in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I'd be getting plus value for it. So I feel good about it.
There's a few, interesting games, but I agree with you. I agree with you.
I mean, for them to go just 3-5 in the SEC, that doesn't seem like a crazy
It doesn't,
ask,
considering they went 4-4 last season, you
right?
know, so in the SEC. But but yeah, so we'll continue. Are we finally there?
So
Are we
not
finally
quite,
there?
not quite.
Oh man, come
So there's 3 teams remaining. They're all from the East, but the
on.
next
Oh,
team is the South Carolina Gamecocks, and they're at 6.
you know, I um I think South Carolina's gonna be pretty good. I think they went 8-5 last season.
Mhm.
And really quick, I love that South Carolina's playing UNC this season, week one game
They should
day.
play that game every year.
They should play that game every year. But I love that they played it in the Duke's Mayo Bowl a couple years ago. And I love that when they won, they dunked the Duke's Mayo. It was like so much fun. I love bowl season. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, no, it doesn't matter anymore. No, it doesn't. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter. It's still fun. So
And let's not forget they beat Clemson
they did beat
at their
Clemson.
place at
So
Memorial Stadium.
mhm.
They snapped like a super freaking long home winning streak that Clemson had. They were about to like break a record or something.
Yes, yes, yes,
It's crazy.
and for those reasons is why I have South Carolina so high. I think I think if you look at it how they played their last couple games, beat Tennessee, like destroy Tennessee.
Crazy.
You know, they took advantage of the defense. They must have done their homework, but they destroyed Tennessee. They beat Clemson crazy, and then they almost beat Notre Dame. So
Mhm.
in the bowl game. So I think if they play how they played last season, and I know they're losing some pieces to the NFL. I mean, even the Dolphins got one of their defensive backs, I think.
Yeah, yeah, their returning production is a little low.
It is a little low. I think, I don't think Spencer Rattler is the truth, but he did play really, really well towards like the end of the season, and that could come back. Um,
Hmm.
so that's what I think. Also, like how we've said in the past, if you win one of those key matchups in the beginning, the over looks so much favorable. And
Yep.
in this case, it's North Carolina, like a pseudo rivalry game.
Yep.
But what do you think?
So I'm looking at their schedule, and it is a little tricky. They get Clemson every year, which is tough. I think Clemson should take revenge. I'm not completely ruling out that South Carolina could win, but I think Clemson will get revenge.
Hmm.
It may be a close game, but I think Clemson wins.
Yeah,
The UNC game is also tough. It's it's a neutral site, but I think North Carolina is going to be pretty good this year. I It's kind of a toss up, but I'm leaning UNC. So right there, that's kind of two losses that I think they're going to suffer, and that's
hmm
not even playing the SEC yet. They can get
yeah,
the other
that's just the
two.
non-con.
They can get the other two, Furman and Jacksonville State, whatever. But I don't think like them going 2-2 in the non-con and them having to get to at least six. I don't think they're going 4-4 in the SEC, and more so 5-3 to get the over. So I'm gonna lean under. Sorry, South Carolina, and the returning production doesn't make me feel confident either. So going slightly under, and I think 6-6 is perfect, but slightly under for me.
I I will say Beamer has overachieved every season of the past 2 or 3 seasons
True,
he's been there.
true.
So who knows? I mean, this team, who knows? And then who knows? But
Yeah.
let's continue.
Yep. The next team is our in-state rival, the Florida Gators. They are at a like pitiful five and a
Pitiful.
half. Just like
Yeah.
they fell off so hard since Dan Mullen. I know Dan Mullen went like 6-6 since last year, but they fell off a cliff. 5.5, really? But whatever. Let's just get into it. It's minus 130 to the over and plus 110 to the under.
You know, it all started with that damn shoe. And if they never threw that shoe, they they maybe would have won the whole thing, the
They would
national
have
championship.
they had a chance, man.
They had a chance. It all started with that shoe, and doesn't surprise me it's the Gators, but before we you know dissect this any further, this is definitely, without a doubt, the hardest schedule in FBS, in my opinion. This is insane. Georgia, I'd put them at like 10 and a half on the schedule, or like maybe even 10. I don't know. I don't know what I'd put them at, but this is a super duper, super
Yeah.
schedule, to be fair. Their non-con might be the hardest non-con I've ever seen. Like at Utah and then Florida State. It doesn't even matter what the other two are. They could be FCS opponents. It could be high schools. That's tough.
Hmm.
And then they play LSU, Georgia, you know, a bunch of teams that are better than them, like Vanderbilt, obviously, from last season. We know that. Kentucky, better than them, of course.
Hmm.
It wouldn't even surprise me. Look, if I'm being honest, it wouldn't surprise me if somehow Florida went 8-4, or 7-5, like just surprised everyone.
Hmm.
It also wouldn't surprise me if they go like 3-9 or 4-8 or something like that. Like at Utah
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
could
Yeah.
be a loss. McNeese win. Tennessee could be a loss. Charlotte win. At Kentucky could be a loss. Vanderbilt at home probably a win, but they weren't supposed to lose last year.
Right. Right.
At South Carolina could be a loss. Georgia L automatically. Arkansas could be a loss. At LSU could is probably a loss. And then at Missouri. And then Florida State, it's a gauntlet. It's like a crazy schedule. So for that, I'm gonna go under. Although, like, of course, I want them to do terribly, and I don't like them. It's got to be the under. I mean, this is insane.
You're getting good value. You're getting plus 110.
I
So,
think
yeah.
they're not that good. And they had and one more thing, but they had a top four or top five, whatever pick quarterback last year.
Right. Right.
This year they have, the guy that left from Wisconsin, and they don't have really have that much, crazy, crazy talent. I've seen this team play a few times. Pearsall, the wide receiver, is good. Etienne is good. That's about it. I don't know anyone else. So
Yeah.
that's my case. They're not that good. They're actually terrible, and the schedule is really, really difficult. 3-9.
Ooh. Damn, that's tough.
No,
So,
no, not. Wait, really quick.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was joking about the 3-9, but under for sure. Right, you have it.
So their returning production is terrible. It's at 54, but I think these are one of the few teams in the country that having a bad returning production is actually helpful to them. I do think that Dan Mullen and Billy Napier have two completely different ideologies. And I think, there is something in like flipping a roster and changing a culture to what you want. And some players buy into it and some don't. So they had a huge roster overhaul. They should all be bought in at this point, right? Tier two under Napier.
Yeah.
They their schedule is tough, and I would give them three auto losses and then a bunch of lean losses, like another three or so lean losses.
Mm-hmm.
So that already gives them 5 to 6 losses.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, they you know they could still win 6 games, and I think they're too talented to go 5-7. I mean, they just went 6-6 with all like this, like these, black, like bad culture and before the mass exodus. So I
But
think I think at
but
worst they would go 6-6. So
but
that's
to
why
that,
I'm leaning over.
I think in some ways, like, the expectations on Florida and the expectations given to Florida by, like, inherently, so much changed with the Utah game. Like when they beat Utah, they I think they had this insane confidence, and it didn't always translate on the field. They lost a bunch of games,
Mhm.
but they played with their chin up. They were, they beat Utah. Everybody remembers Anthony Richardson popping off. Like that was an awesome game from him.
Yeah.
I even have to say that. That was a great game. And they got a little lucky, but they did win. So whatever. They had a lot of confidence. I think they're gonna lose at Utah, and then, like, they're gonna start off the season at best. I mean, I, I probably 2-2, maybe. Yeah, 2-2, and then it's gonna be super hard. I don't think they're gonna have a lot of confidence going in, and their back half of the schedule is super hard. So I don't know. They even have Arkansas coming off a bye for their week, and then they have Georgia coming off a bye. No, no, they're coming off a bye. Sorry, but coming off Arkansas bye, like, there's so many landmines here, and I don't know. Uh, Sorry. Um, what's that stupid song they always put and I won't
Yeah,
back.
won't back down by Tom Petty.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. Yeah, they're not gonna back down, but they probably should.
So if I'm gonna break this down by schedule, my auto losses are at Utah, Georgia, and at LSU. Those are my three auto losses. My lean losses are Tennessee at home, but they could win that
Mm.
because it's at home, and never really know.
And you never know. Yes, I agree.
At South Carolina, but they could also kind of win that. And then FSU, but it's at home, so you never really know.
You never know.
And then that's six, right? If they just can squeeze out, Kentucky, get revenge on Kentucky. Arkansas is coming to their place; they should beat them. And then Missouri's not that good. That's six. So that's how I got to my six. But you know, I can definitely see under, obviously.
They have to beat these three: Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Missouri.
Yeah.
Like like those are like must wins. If they drop any of those, if they lose to Kentucky, week 4 or 5, I already know how it's gonna end. No coming
Oh,
back.
they're toast. Yeah, for sure.
Toast. But sorry, UF.